Hi, this is Bobby Brown, and welcome to another fucking podcast.
My liver's all twisted up. But you know what I did? I loaded up with alcohol, more specifically vodka, whiskey, beer, tequila, more beer, more vodka, more whiskey, and more beer.
Who wants an orange whip? Orange whip? Orange whip? 3 orange whips.
So you're bored, are ya? I've come here to break your monotony. Let me have my piece, because I'm shooting with this one, folks. I don't care, man.
The unscripted, uncensored, loose cannon of commentary.
Why did you say that? Why? Why? You come out with stink like that? Poop. Your poop mouth. Poop out of your mouth.
See, son? Old legends never die. They just lose weight.
Like a legend and an out-of-work bum look a lot alike, Daddy.
I've got a midget friend, an albino friend, and another friend who thinks Lord of the Rings is real. Together we call ourselves the Unfuckables.
Winton is in. Let the fun begin.
Body touch.
God, you're an asshole, man.
I've never heard of Van Halen.
Hello, Hollywood. Hello, world. Hello, my loyal minions. It is good to see you, and as always, good to be seen. I am Izzy Presley, and this is a very special video-only edition of another fucking podcast, YouTube exclusive. I will be joined by Robert Duncan. He's a managing editor of CREEM magazine in the 70s, and we have a great conversation talking about his book called Loudmouth, a rip, snort, and rock and roll story, which is available for pre-order now. You will find the link in the YouTube description stuff thing where everything else is. You know that. Yes. Also in that description, you will find the eBay link for the Jersey Tee retro shirts, which are available right now for only $19.99 plus shipping. Click on those, and that is a very, very limited edition. There's only like 28 shirts left, so don't miss out on those. Hit up all the social media at Real Izzy Presley all the way across the board: Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and of course the show page is Another Effing Podcast, and there's a shop now link there too, which you can get all of the act shirts, all of the podcast shirts, the I Love Van Hagar shirts, all that stuff is available there, so make sure you check that out. And I am also accepting donations. If you do like the show, you do like what I do, it's very, very simple. izzypresley@yahoo.com is your PayPal. I also accept CashApp, $Izzy Presley. Real Izzy Presley is the Venmo. It's all there. You guys know all that shit. Had a great time doing the Elvis show on Tuesday night. You can find that here on YouTube as well. Coming up on Tuesday, the next Drunken Summit. It is the war to settle the score. That's right. Kiss fans unite to decide which comeback, quote unquote, comeback record is better. Creatures of the Night or Revenge. And then the following week, we'll be talking about Kevin Smith and the Kevin Smith movies. And on that show, anybody who follows me on Twitter knows that every day I tweet at Kevin Smith, at that Kevin Smith, to cast me in Twilight of the Mallrats. So what I am going to be doing on that show is, here, I will show it to you. I should have had it. I have been sent by loyal listener, Laurie Nickel in Australia. He gave me a nice little packet. It had some Elvis stuff in there. It had these booby things in there. But it also had this Vegemite. Yes. And to show how dedicated I am to Kevin Smith, on that episode, I will be trying Vegemite. I heard it's disgusting. The only people that like it are people in Australia. It's their lutefisk. So watch me live on the show try Vegemite. Yes, Vegemite. I am not excited about it, but it's all about the end game, proving to Kevin Smith that I will do anything, even try Vegemite live on camera to prove that I will do anything to get in his movie. Anyways, without further ado, let's bring him in. Robert Duncan, managing editor of CREEM magazine. Got a lot of great stories out of him. You're going to love this interview. This computer. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcoming to the show on the Zoom, Michael Brandvold marketing Zoom line. Yes, we got to pimp his goatee wearing ass. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a managing editor of CREEM magazine. He's an author. His name is Robert Duncan. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, I'm honored to be here.
I'm honored to have you. Before we get into everything, you're from Sheboygan, Wisconsin.
Of all places. Yeah, I was born there.
And it's funny because I used to do a fantasy football segment on this show, and my fantasy football guy that I graduated high school with in St. Cloud, Minnesota, was a Vikings fan doing that from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. So I actually had shirts made that on the back of it said, "I'm huge in Sheboygan."
Oh, I should get some of those. We left when I was 6 months old, and so I can vaguely remember being in a bar, but that's about it.
Of course you were. It was Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I was smoking and.
A kid. I knew you were cool. So CREEM started in what, 69? How did CREEM get on your radar?
CREEM got on my radar because I wanted to be well, I had been in bands for many years. And at some point I got tired of the drummer quitting and the guitar player, flaming out and all that shit. And I decided I got to do something that I can do on my own. And I said, well, I was always a pretty good writer. And I thought, well, let me see if I can, maybe I can, I'll write what I know. And that's about rock music. And so I went out to California, and I just, by the weirdest coincidence, I was looking for an apartment, and I saw this basement apartment for rent in Sausalito. And so I pulled my car over and I ran in, and this guy's coming down the hill from the other direction, says, "I got it already, forget about it." And I'm like, oh shit. Well, it was the end of the day. So, well, let me look at it anyways. He says, all right, but don't get any ideas. And so I went in, and I'm looking at the apartment. He comes in, he's carrying a big box, and he puts the box down, and he's got a lanyard with a press pass under it. And I said, oh shit, I'm trying to be a writer. Who do you write for? And he starts with, Rolling Stone and CREEM and all this stuff. And it turned out to be Ed Ward, who was for many years the rock historian on Terry Gross's show, Fresh Air, and who also was one of the first editors at Rolling Stone. He was the West Coast editor of CREEM. That was it. Ed Ward, he tortured me, made me transcribe his tapes and all this shit. And again, I was 21. And then he introduced me a guy named John Morthland, who was also a wonderful writer. And John got hired to be the interim editor at CREEM after they had lost some editor or other. There were a lot of interims. And then he called me up from there and said, hey, you want to come be like copy boy? And so I did. It was a job. I didn't, I wasn't even, I knew CREEM. I used to see it. I lived in New York at the time, and I, for many years, mostly grew up in New York. And I used to see it on the Astor Place subway platform. And I thought, man, what the fuck with that magazine? The Stooges and MC5 and, Grand Funk Railroad, what the fuck? So I never even bought it. I thought this is some mutant horror from the Midwest. And, but of course I was completely turned around once I got there. Right. But yeah, so Edward, John Morthland, me.
No, that's great. I mean, I used to be a writer as well, and it was, just for one of these freebie rags up in, St. Cloud, Minnesota. But, that's when you get that taste. That's when you get that flavor of I get to talk to some of these people that were my heroes. You know, I get to go to shows. You know, I ended up being the sports and music director, so I was like covering the Twins and all that shit. You know, in the press box, it's like you get a real sense of, you know, the other side of the world doing that shit.
Yeah, you know, it was great. So it was great, and who knew it was going to last 40 or 50 years, whatever it's been, you know.
Right.
And at the time, I knew there was a lot of cool shit going on, and it was really great writing and funny writing. And I remember when I first moved to California, which is like 30 years ago, a guy found out I worked at CREEM, and he interviewed me, and I said, you know, I think CREEM was like those pulp mystery magazines in the 30s where Dashiell Hammett and Raymond Chandler came out of.
Yeah.
And I said to this guy, I said, well, I hope it's rediscovered, you know, like that stuff was, and recognize that it wasn't just, you know, transient shit, you know. So
right. What was it like for you? I mean, as a music fan in the Bay Area at that time?
Well, let's see. I was in the Bay Area. I came to the Bay Area first in like the early 70s, and that's when I met Ed Ward and all. And then I went back to New York for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Well, I went to Detroit, and then I went back. After I left Detroit, I went back to New York. I've been all around. I've been around.
Right.
Then I came back to San Francisco. I mean, in those days, I mean, I got to see the last incarnation of Moby Grape, who were one of my favorite bands, and I got to do one of my first ever interviews with them. So, and smoke tie stick with them, which was
that's awesome.
Which was really fun, and we got to be kind of friendly, and they sounded great. You know, they were trying to make a comeback at that time, early 70s, and I think and one of the other early interviews I did was so I was right before I went to CREEM, I wrote freelance for them through Ed Ward, and they called me and said, hey, there's this band coming to town, they're really bugging us, you know, will you go down and see them, and you know, give a call to the manager. So I gave a call to the manager, who was a guy named Bill O'Coin, took me out to dinner, and then he took me to see Kiss, who were opening for, I don't remember who they were opening for, but at Winterland, you know, at the theater called Winterland, which is where the Sex Pistols had their last show, and I was like, what is this shit? You know, it was like big light up signs, and you know, they, you know, even as an opening act, they were doing all their shit. So I was kind of horrified. But they were, you know, we had a nice talk, and it was the day Paul Stanley came in late to our interview because he had been getting his tattoo. That was the day he got his rose tattoo.
Yeah.
Showing us all that. And I believe it was from Lyle Tuttle, who I later got tattoos from. And
nice.
He was the guy who tattooed, you know, he was famous for tattooing Janis Joplin and Grace Slick and all those folks. So, so I, you know, from Moby Grape, you know, kind of one of the, you know, seminal 67 Summer of Love bands to Kiss. That was, there was an arc.
Yeah, well, it's like, I think San Francisco, a lot like Detroit, people forget about what a hot music bed that it was. I mean, as you look at, you know, Y&T, and then, you know, the thrash scene that came out of there.
Right.
It's pretty unbelievable, and Y&T fucking rules.
Yeah, well, by the time, you know, Y&T rose, I had gone back to New York, but
gotcha.
But I was back for kind of the tail end of the punk era. I mean, the Dead Kennedys were kicking around, and you know, the Nuns and the Avengers and all that group.
I mean, it's Elvis week, so I mean, I want to talk a little bit about Elvis. Were you an Elvis guy? Did you cover any Elvis? Do you have any Elvis stories?
I do. I mean, I saw Elvis. I saw him his one time he performed at Madison Square Garden, which we discovered later was because his manager couldn't come to New York. You know, Colonel Tom couldn't come to New York because of, you know, some legal issues.
Right.
So I saw him at the Garden. You know, I was sitting in like the almost nosebleeds. I wasn't a press pass or anything.
Right.
But, everybody who was into rock and roll in New York was in that fucking room that day.
Yeah.
It was so, and it was so far away and the sound system was so shitty. So this would have been, I don't know, mid 70s. And I remember he started a song. I thought, oh, that's great. That's whatever song I thought it was. And, but you listen for about 30 seconds. It's, oh, no, it's not even that song. It's some other. The sound was so terrible. You couldn't tell what song it was.
Right.
But I when I was a kid, I lived in Minnesota, too.
Oh, really? And, what part?
I lived outside. I lived in about an hour from Minneapolis. At the time, it was an hour. Now it's probably 20 minutes, 15 minutes from, and it was undeveloped. And it became the town of Wayzata.
Oh, okay.
It was the town of Wayzata, but it wasn't. I've been back to Wayzata. It's like not what it was. And but I had a much older brother who, so I was a little 7 or 8 year old, and I had a much older brother. He was 12 or 13 years older, half brother. And he came to live with us after my father got in a custody fight with his ex. And this guy, he was just rock and roll incarnate. This guy, he was a hot rodder. He was in a hot rod gang. One day when I'm a little kid, I adapted some of these stories for the book. Mm-hmm. And one day I went down to his bedroom and found a rifle, a pistol, and a machine gun under his bed, which is pretty exciting for a 7 or 8 year old to find.
Absolutely.
Of course, I couldn't carry the big stuff, so I brought the pistol up to my mother, which flipped her out. Of course it did. But anyways, I remember driving in the car. The first time I heard Elvis was in his 1932 Ford something or other hot rod, just burning rubber around Wayzata, and Elvis was doing Hound Dog on the radio. Mm-hmm. And I remember I just thought, what is this shit? This is so scary. I was terrified. The whole scene was terrifying. My gun-toting hot rod driving brother with Elvis just blasting out of the dashboard. So, but a week later, I'm in school, and I went to a Catholic school, and the nuns are doing the hymn music class. So we're singing hymns and stuff, and I started singing them like Elvis Presley. I thought, so I was doing like I was trying to do all that. So something stuck in me, and that was a day. And this is in the book. The book is supposed to be fictional, but there's a lot of shit.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
It's not an autobiography. Okay, we'll get into that later.
But that was the day the nun called home and told my mother, "Oh, I think he has perfect pitch." I was doing Elvis, so that was one good call from school.
That is that's funny. Do you remember where you were when he died?
Yeah, I was in New York City, and I was at the Bells of Hell, which was a kind of a famous funky bar in New York where lots of rock writers and musicians hung out. And I remember walking up to the Bells, and somebody had put on the chalkboard outside, "I'm right. She's left. He's gone. Elvis." Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I remember it well. I remember walking up on that chalkboard. That was how I found out.
Yeah, I was what, 4 when he died, yeah. And that's like, everybody has that first memory of the first major news story, and for me, that's the one. It's like my mom knows where she was when Kennedy got shot. I know where I was when I found out Elvis died. In a trailer park in Waite Park, Minnesota. Yeah. It's funny that when I Googled you, this Kiss book came up, and I'm like, holy shit, I had this Kiss book, and I think I still do. What was the? When you decided to write the Kiss book, tell me about that.
I didn't so much as decide as I was broke, and I'm a writer in New York City. And I went to a press party. We always went to all the press parties, so you get the free food and free booze. Mm-hmm. And we went to a press party for Ozzy Osbourne. Maybe he'd released his first solo album. I don't know. And Ozzy, the funny thing was, I said, well, let me meet Ozzy, and the publicist is like, well, okay. And they go way back in the dark corner of the place, and Ozzy's there with his chin to his chest, just sound asleep. And so they jostled him awake, and I got to meet Ozzy. But then I'm waiting in line for the food, and this guy Richard Robinson, who was he was a writer, and he was also a producer. He produced Lou Reed's first solo album before the Walk on the Wild Side album, before Transformer, and he was just plugged into everywhere. And his wife was Lisa Robinson, who wrote for CREEM. And he said to me, he said, hey, a guy called me about, they're looking for somebody to write a biography, unauthorized biography of CREEM, CREEM, of Kiss. Would you be interested? And I'm like, yeah. And so I called the guy the next day, and it was the fastest contract I ever got in my life. And within a few days, we had a contract. And I mean, probably because the money sucked, but
right.
Although the royalties were okay, and in the end, that goddamn book bailed us out because we sold it to Japan and we sold it to England, and it wound up selling like 300,000 or 400,000 copies. And so it was like for 3 years we got to pay off all our debts.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine that. And that came out in what, 77, 78?
78, yeah.
78. The thing that I remember, go ahead.
I was 23.
Oh, Jesus. That's
24
amazing.
when it came out.
That's amazing. The one thing I remember is like there was a picture, I can't remember if it was on the back cover or on the inside, where it was like, it had to have been like towards the end of a show, and it looked like Gene's makeup had melted off, so you could almost actually see his face. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, that's what he looks like, almost.
That's funny. I have a picture of me and Gene, like around that time where they were still doing this, hiding their faces and all that. And I used to just totally try to torture him. And I remember he was hiding his face. So the pictures of me trying to shove a beer bottle under his hand into his mouth.
That's fucking gold.
And he was, and it was funny because he was there with a perfectly nice girl, which right there.
Right.
But she was just, it was long before the Playboy bunnies and the whatever. I met Gene I ran into Gene another time at a very weird thing where he was with Diana Ross in those days at that point.
Did you have anything to do with, I think it was CREEM that got Kiss to do the pictures out of makeup? Did you have anything to do with that?
I had no, that was after, they were still in makeup when I left CREEM.
Okay. Well, no, because there was I think it was CREEM that did that story in the early 70s where they said, yeah, no. The management said this is okay, or we're going to get you guys, getting into the makeup, and they took all the pictures without makeup.
No, I'm sorry to say I wasn't.
Oh, well, goddamn.
But I remember going to a press party but I tried to torture Gene, but I think Gene liked it because I guess you get tired of people kissing your ass. But we went to some press party. It was like out in Queens at it was like a public pool thing, but it was a really old building. It was cool. And I remember I was hanging around. Gene was like wearing his platforms, but he was out of makeup, but he was also, he's tall. And I'm like, I'm not short, but I'm like, hey, Gene, what the fuck? You're taller than me. So I went and got a chair, and I stood and talked to him from atop the chair, that was the kind of stuff I like to do to Gene. But I think he thought it was kind of funny.
When you were in New York, what musically excited you out there?
Well, I was there for, I was there in the punk era. So I was there at the, I had just kind of finished playing during the glam era. So, we were around when the Dolls were around and all those kind of New York glam bands. Mm-hmm. And then, God, I remember sitting at CBGB's just sitting on the back of a chair in the back of the room next to this guy, Tom Verlaine, who was not really very well known, Television. His band was Television. I probably have to clarify that. But and we were watching this trio called Talking Heads before Jerry Harrison was in them. And I don't know, we were great friends with this band, The Dictators, who I maintain put out the first punk record because they were about a year before the Ramones and the Sex Pistols. I'm still friends with them to this day. You know, we talk.
Do you have any good Debbie Harry stories?
I only met her once, and I mean, I remember I went with the Dictators were headlining a thing where some promoter had thought, well, I'm going to pioneer a new venue, and it was like an old high school gymnasium, and it was so beat. It was so plumbing didn't work. It was just, I don't know how long it had been closed, but it was like a haunted house, this place. And Debbie Harry was on the bill, and you know, she was supporting the Dictators. So I don't really have anything, but beyond that, nothing too exciting.
That's too bad, because she was so hot. Oh, she was so hot.
Maybe I never was I didn't think that. So maybe that's why.
Dude, that's fine. Everybody has their thing. It's all good. I like Out of My League blonde girls. I mean, what can I say?
Yeah. Well, I do too. But
yeah, right.
No, we used to. You know, who did we see? Oh, Patti Smith. We saw from the beginning, and we were good. My wife lived with the Blue Oyster Cult for a while when they were just starting out. Yeah, and so we got to be good. Through CREEM, and we both knew the Blue Oyster Cult, and that's how we kind of one of the reasons we knew each other. And she was taking pictures, and oh God, I remember going to. So Patty was going out with Alan Lanier for a long time of the Blue Oyster Cult, the keyboardist, and I remember going. Alan would say, "Come up, I'll play a new song," and we go up to his house. And I remember being up there one day, and me and Alan, and then Jim Carroll came over. You know, people who died. I don't know how much I have to, but Jim Carroll came over and just walked right in the door, sat down at the nearest chair, and just started hoovering up his blow, and then Patty came home, and so the three of us are there like bad boys in the house, and we're sitting on her bed and stuff. We're sitting on their bed. Alan's bed. I remember she just blew a gasket at this scene. So, and told us to get the fuck out. But we actually became great friends with Patty.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I watched the movie, the documentary that came out, was it last week?
Yeah.
I was kind of drunk when I was watching it.
Yeah.
So I don't remember a lot of it, but how did you think it came out?
I thought it came out great. I was really, just before Scott Crawford, the director, that I heard he was working on getting a deal. Mm-hmm. I had been talking to a director friend of mine. I said, there ought to be a fucking movie on CREEM. It's just a shame that hasn't been done. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, he's a young guy, and I said, and he is a CREEM fan. And I said, would you be interested in doing it? And he says, yeah. What, and I actually sent him like a treatment for a script. And then it wasn't a month later that I heard that they made this deal with Scott. I was happy. I didn't really want to work. I just thought a CREEM movie should be done. So I was happy. And I think Salad Days is a great movie, his previous effort. And so I had high hopes, and I think they were exceeded. I really thought it was great. And it's so fun to have it be memorialized like that, and great reviews, getting great reviews, and Scott put me in it, and that was great, and got me to. Eventually, we talked so much about it during the making of the movie. He says, "I'm going to make you a story consultant," so I get a nice little credit.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah,
the thing that I did love about it. Having a journalism background, and I say that very lightly compared to what you guys are doing.
No. I would put that in quotes for CREEM too.
I was extremely jealous of the fact that you guys were able to be so honest, so brutally honest in your writing, because, you know, us being, you know, such a small publication that we were, it's like you didn't want to piss anybody off because you wanted to keep the relationships, and I didn't want to get kicked out of the press box by ripping a team or player too bad, yada, yada, yada. So you really had to walk the line, but you guys were so just able to be just asshole critics, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, there was, you know, Barry Kramer, who was the publisher, and you see in the movie, he, you know, he went pretty, let us go pretty far. There, you know, even when he would raise a barrier, it would be like, oh, fuck that, Barry, don't be a pussy or whatever. And he would back down. So it was, yeah, it was great. And that was obviously that was the appeal of the thing, that it was right. And it wasn't just that we were being honest. I think it was that we were being funny. Right. Sometimes we were being honest, and sometimes we were just trying to make people laugh. You know.
Did you do you have any memories of any blowback that you got from artists?
Oh, there was. I can't remember who it was that pulled their advertising one time, and blowback from artists. Well, you know, in the movie, there's that Joan Jett thing where.
Yeah, that's right, the Joan Jett one. Yeah. I was drunk when I was watching it.
Yeah. Well, watch it again. It's. I hope you enjoyed it.
I will.
It was good. I watch it so often that I bought the thing, but I'm like I haven't watched it again yet. I watched it 15 times during the making. Other blowback was, you know, there was Lou Reed was stinking mad at Lester. I mean, he did hate Lester for real in the end. He hated him for when Lester wrote. It was a really funny story, but certainly today it seems like, whoa. He made some crack about Lou's transgender or I can't remember, girlfriend. And, you know, and you wouldn't do it today. And
right.
I don't think Lester would do it today either. You know, Lester wasn't.
I think that's the beauty of that time, is you were able to get away with stuff like that, you know?
Yeah. I guess. You know, but I guess I think I'm glad that we don't do that. People don't do that shit anymore, and that we're kind of like more respectful of because you know these are the frontiers people of our society. I think it's you know, we need that kind of spirit, and you know, and but yes, we certainly relied on shit that was not right for humor purposes.
Well, it's funny is that because the only thing I knew about Lester Bangs before watching this, I didn't know that he wrote for CREEM. I just knew him, you know, from the quote unquote role in Almost Famous, you know, when he was the DJ. You know,
right.
So it's like, you know, I was literally learning a lot, you know, when I was watching this. I mean, from what I soaked in, other than what was being soaked into my liver at the time, but. How was Lester to work with and to deal with?
Lester was, we were very close, so we went drinking every night, and you know, there's scenes in Loudmouth, the book, which is it's a novel, but you know, it's a lot of memoir shit. You know, we went out every night to get bolos of beer at Pasquale's bar and restaurant, and I'll tell you what, he was a really great writer, and I got to edit his stuff, and he'd give me something that he had been writing. I talk about this in the book. You know, he'd take a handful of Valium and sit. Not always, but there's one time I remember he takes a handful of Valium to sit down and work, and I thought, well, I'm not sure how that's gonna work. You know, and swigs, you know, washes it down with a warm beer, and sits at his typewriter, and he could type like crazy. For me, a hunt and peck guy, it was like that was the most humiliating part. But yeah, exactly. And but he would, so he'd write 100 pages or something, and it'd be like, and if you were willing to read through it all, you would find that maybe 50% of it was good and great, you know? So the guy was amazing. His first drafts were incredible, and he was very funny, and he had tremendous insight into music, and he liked people like, you know, he claimed to like Metal Machine music by Lou Reed, and if you've ever listened to that, it's like,
No, I have
he
not.
he used to put it on in the office, and it'd be like, and you can't say, oh, hey man, don't put that on. It would be, you know, you got to be cool, right?
Right.
Lester was a little older than me, and he'd been there longer, but he would do shit like that. And I remember he and I went to interview Kraftwerk on their first pass through the States, their first tour of the States, and he'd listen to that Kraftwerk record, and I'm like, this is like, I think this is shit. So I think I was too conventional in the end. But Lester, it was like, he would pick up on amazing shit that nobody else would. And so he was brilliant. He was, you know, we were all big, well, many of us were big drinkers, and you know, and the drugs were really kind of secondary to the drinking.
Right.
You know, so we were all drunk a lot of the time and hungover the other part, and so, you know, he could be a difficult to control drunk. I when I moved to New York, I lived in a really cheap apartment down near the Village. And I'd been there a few months when the matching apartment next door came open. And I called up Lester and I said, because he was always talking about moving to New York. I said, dude, you're always talking about moving to New York. I got the fucking cheapest apartment in New York next to me, you know. And I said, you know, if you tell me to give the guy a deposit, I'll give him a deposit. And so he said, do it, I'm coming. And so then he got to New York, and so we carried on in New York together for a while until, and this is talked about in Loudmouth too, is, you know, at some point it's like he was just going downhill hard. So,
yeah.
And so the fun goes out of it. So,
yeah, the book is called Loudmouth, the Rip Snorton rock and roll story. Comes out October 6th.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
When did
you
you
can
start?
Pre-order it now, though.
Yes, you get on it. Pre-order it now.
So if you're, before you're drunk or your high wears off.
I will. No, I will absolutely get myself a copy of this. How long have you been working on this? And is it just irony that, you know, it's like the CREEM movie's coming out and your book is coming out at the same time, almost?
CREEM movie was supposed to come out a year ago. I've been working on this thing. I mean, I started it like 6 years ago, and the CREEM movie was supposed to come out a year ago. And I thought, damn, too bad I can't finish my book in time. That would be great to have it out at the same time.
Right.
And fucking just serendipity. So,
right.
So yeah, I'm hoping they sell them 1 million tickets and I can sell 10 books drafting off it.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, you said it's kind of a fictional book, but there's some memoir in it too.
Well, I call it a veiled memoir, but I'm just being lazy. But basically, you know, I wrote a story and I wanted to take out all the boring parts. You know, nobody wants to hear I moved from Minnesota to this one and that one.
Right.
Moved around a lot, and so, you know, so I could make myself cooler. I could make my perils more perilous, although they were some pretty intense perils.
Right.
And I don't know. And I could also change the names of all the people that I'm going to offend, so I can say, hey, I changed your name. So
that's a good way to not get sued.
Yeah. I'm hoping. Who knows how there's going to be people mad. I think about it. I think, God damn it, those calls are going to come in and they're going to come from weird people. So,
well, I always hear Adam Carolla talk about, you know, when he's trying to write a book and all of a sudden the lawyers will be like, well, did this actually really happen with this person? Because we don't want to get sued. And it's like, yeah, that's brilliant. Change the names.
Yeah. So, and so it's embellished and it's edited but it's based on my life growing up, from kind of hearing Elvis in the car to not long after Lester died and we came to California.
Well, I'm rather excited to read it. I mean, because this stuff just it just enthralls me, and I love the fact that you admit that you've bolstered some of the shit up a little bit, to make it sound cooler.
People will say to me, people who've read the advanced review copy will say, well, I just got to ask you, is this part true? And I said, anything that you think that can't possibly be true, that's the true shit. That's the shit that that's the shit that actually happened. Because there was some unbelievable stuff. So,
well, it's funny because like us 80s hard rock freaks, we look at the Dirt by Crew. We almost call that the Bible. But there's some people that say, yeah, it's not necessarily all true.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you going to do an audiobook?
I finished recording it, and since I have a studio in the bottom of my house is a studio, which is where I am. I decided, oh shit, I'll just edit this myself, and I'll just word of caution: never fucking edit an audiobook, because that the 10 hours of the 10 hours that the book will be is really 40 or 50 hours of takes, alternate takes, and all that shit. And I've been working on it for 2 months, and I'm like, I don't want to work on it anymore.
Yeah,
so but there will be an audiobook, and there's an ebook, a digital book too.
Oh, nice. Well, yeah, there's that, but this is also the fun part about editing audio is cutting out all the breaths.
Yeah, well, it is so nasty.
Yeah.
You cut out all the breaths on your podcast?
No, because I usually do the show live. This is one that I'm just recording and I'm gonna throw up on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I usually do the show live on Tuesday, so it's like it's straightforward. Bam, and I'm not gonna edit this either. It's just gonna be, I'm gonna record a little intro, then I'm gonna put the show up, put it all together.
And parts all in.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. People want to find the book. They want to find you. How can they do it?
Well, they can find the book at, it's going to be everywhere on October 6th, because with the distributors, we got the big distributor. It's published by a New York publishing company. And, but you can order it on Amazon and on bookshop.org if you don't like corporate book selling and all this stuff. And you can actually see, I put up a whole bunch of the links where you can pre-order it on my website, which is duncanwrites.com.
Okay.
And there's a tab for buy. And
I'll make sure to put that in the bio part of this. So
Duncan writes like writing, like but yeah. So and that's where all links are. So
sounds great, man. I'm rather excited, and thank you for spending some time with me. This is cool. I love this stuff.
Thanks back at you. That's fun. Well, yeah, I hope you enjoy it, and yeah, good.
And I'll tell you, we do usually these shows I've been doing since this whole fucking pandemic shit started. We've been doing these. I call them Drunken summits.
Yeah.
So I just get like 3 or 4 people together on the Zoom, and we do a topic. Like this week was Elvis.
Oh, I saw the Elvis Drunken Summit. Yeah.
Oh, really? It just came out this morning. Nice.
Yeah.
You were one of the ones.
Yeah.
But
I was listening to it while I was supposed to be on another Zoom call.
Oh, really?
I get a message saying, "We can hear you."
Dude, that's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I just put it up this morning. That's why there's so many few views right now. But dude, thank you so much, Robert Duncan.
Yeah.
Loudmouth, the Rip Snorting Rock and Roll Story, out available October 6th. Pre-order it now. All right, there you go, kids. What a great interview. Very entertaining guy. Really excited about his book. Pre-order the book, which is called Loudmouth, the Rip Snorting Rock and Roll Story. You can find the link in the bio. And like I said, make sure you hit up all the social media at Real Izzy Presley all the way across the board, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course the show pages and other podcast. And we'll see you on Tuesday night. Chad Stewart from Fast Food Pussycat has already said he will be in, and working on some other great guests as well when we talk about the war to settle the score. The ultimate Kiss throwdown to decide which comeback record was better. Creatures of the Night or Revenge. We will see you then. My name is Izzy Presley. This has been another fucking podcast. Don't forget, what I lack in talent, I make up for in cock.